That's right. Welcome to the Big House Breakdown. I'm your host, Vic. You've reached that click where we tell you all about what's going on in the Big House. That's right. College football, sports talk focused on your Michigan Wolverines. So if you want to get it in, we on the bright side over here. You can do so. Come on through. The water's fine. We getting deep enough to swim in. We talking about college football and the Michigan Wolverines. And it's ill that we're doing it today because we have a really super duper matchup that I'm really, really excited about. And I can't wait to talk to you about all the info, all the scouting, all of the matchups, all of it. And that is the Michigan Wolverines versus the USC Trojans. Yeah. Going back to Cali, 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 going back to Cali. We gonna win though. Yeah, man, we gonna win in Cali. Um, Big Blue is smashing on the West Coast. You know what I mean? We want you to come on inside, enjoy this ride as we provide the things, that real football information, not that crap analysis that you get on CBS Sports, NBC Sports, ESPN, etc., etc., etc. Especially those talking heads that claim they down with Michigan, but they just down with getting clicks and likes on social media for producing Michigan content. And you know who you are out there. Wait till I get to my crap analysis segment. But like we always do, we got to set it off. We got to set this wonderful, wonderful show off with a trip down memory lane. That's right. We're getting ready to talk about the week 6 that was. The week 6 that was. Um, which players performed the best in week 6? Let's get to that. Let's do that. So, as we prepare to share, why don't you guys, if you like what we're doing and you've watched the show before, especially during the championship season of 23, um, please tap in. Um, our analysis can't be bought, but it can certainly be donated to. So if you feel like donating to what we do on the Big House Breakdown, please do so. Please do so. You can do so at Vic7 at I'm sorry, that's the email address. You can email me too, Vic7 at gmx.com. Email me what you think about the show, improvements, things that you want to see, things that you disagree with, right? And you can also uh, donate $ the real HD show, $ the real HD show. Please do that. Very, very easy, very, very convenient. I would tell you the super chat. I know for YouTube, that's an easy kind of non-stick way to get all of that done. You don't got to get on your phone and go through this one or that one, go through this app or that app. But we get more to the show. We could bring you more outstanding content if you decide to donate through Cash App. So it's the real HD, the real HD show. And if you want to join the show today live with us, you sure can. You can jump in streamyard.com, EVQ6Y6, VXAT. So you put that above in your address bar. I bring you up here on stage with me. You might see my little avatar here, but I'll bring you up on stage with me and we can rock out. And I will leave that there in a banner for a while so that you guys can catch up to what we're doing and how you can get involved. Boom, there you go. Right? So we want to change the style of this. We want to go green for Friday. Friday Green is in the house. Let's get that Friday Green working. Boom. We want to stay in tune with the vibration of the day. So we got that, Friday green popping, but we talking about these Michigan Wolverines and the rest of college football. So if you got a favorite team, please don't feel like you can't talk about it. Why? Because we about to talk about it. AP poll top 25. Ohio State at 1. The U at the 2. Oregon at 3 with that big win over Penn State. Ole Miss at 4. Texas A&M at 5. Oklahoma at 6. Indiana at 7. Bama at 8. Texas Tech at 9. Georgia at 10. Wow, Georgia is falling like a rock. LSU at 11. Texas at 12. Georgia Tech at 13. Mizzou at 14. My Michigan Wolverines at 15 and climbing. Notre Dame at 16. I Illinois at 17. BYU at 18. Who would have thunk it? Virginia at 19. Who would have thunk it? Vanderbilt falling, just like I told everybody they would. Vanderbilt is falling. I was just wondering how long it was going to take them to move into that position. State at 21. Arizona at 21. Iowa State at 22. Memphis at 23. And what is that? Tulane? I believe that's Tulane. No. That's Marshall, right? And then Florida State at 25. Wow. If anybody got a beef, if anybody thinks that this should be amended, corrected, or edited, say with your chest. Jump on in here on the live link. Let's talk about this top 25. The race for the college football playoff. Do I think this order will stay the same or change? I believe this order is going to change drastically. I love what Chambliss is doing down there in Ole Miss. Love what he's doing, slinging that rock out there. Not sure what Oklahoma's going to do after old boy had surgery on his hand. The quarterback for Oklahoma. After Indiana plays Oregon, that 7 positioning may fluctuate. And then Bama is steady climbing. They are at 8. So this list will and most certainly will, like all things that have entropy, is going to change. All right. So let's look at some of your more outstanding players in college football week 7. Let's talk about it. So these are the performers that played the best in week 6 and where they are in week 7. So you got Fernando Mendoza. He leads the Big Ten in quarterback rating and is a early Heisman contender. Dante Moore, impressed with poise, arm talent, ranking 4th in the Big Ten in quarterback ranking. Emilava, named the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week, leading to the mighty upset of Penn State, UCLA, that is. Julian Sayin, womp womp, earned freshman honors of the week for his strong passing performance versus Minnesota. Wide receivers, Jeremiah Smith, Antonio Williams, and Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., doing their thing. And on defense, the big dogs are Deshaun Singleton of Alabama and Indiana's defense, highlighted as a strong unit, holding Illinois to significantly lower yards per play than their average. And even special teams is getting in the game. Danley Alano earned Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week for his field goal performance in the game. So that was your outstanding players in week 6 going into week 7. There is your AP poll. Let's take a peek at Heisman Watch. Heisman Watch. Here we go. So it's going to read a lot like those outstanding players. So you got Carson Beck at plus 500 at the top. Dante Moore with a plus 700, coming in the rear, riding shotgun. Jeremiah Smith. How did Jeremiah Smith get all the way up to a plus 800 in third place? I don't know, man. That's a little greasy palms right there. Ty Simpson plus 800 from Bama. Now, he's been spinning. He's been spinning. Fernando Mendoza, he's been spinning. Julian saying, that's a little greasy palm right there. Chambliss. Now, Chambliss has been spinning. Sam Levitt for Arizona State at a plus 2,000. Marcel Reed at a plus 2,000. CJ Carr at a plus 2,000. That I disagree with. And Joey Aguiar with a plus 2,000. So again, Heisman leaders in order go like this: Carson Beck first, Dante Moore second, Jeremiah Smith third, Ty Simpson fourth, Fernando Mendoza of Indiana fifth, Julian Sayin of Ohio State sixth, seventh is Chambliss of Ole Miss. I hope he keeps climbing. Sam Levitt of Arizona, 2,000. Marcel Reed of Texas A&M. CJ Carr of Notre Dame, and then Joey Aguiar of Tennessee. If you disagree with the list like I do, I believe that you could replace Sam Levitt with Justice Haynes of the Michigan Wolverines. That's right. He's running his tail off. He's getting it done. He's getting busy. He's making them feel dizzy. He is in his world right now. You let us know what you think of these Heisman odds. Are you with them? Are you against them? Are they doing whose boy, whose favorite team and whose favorite boy are they doing dirty right now? Talk to us. They doing my man Justice Haynes dirty. He's got at least 120 yards in all the games he played this season. At least a tutty, if not two, in every joint that he plays this season. So they doing my boy Justice Haynes dirty, but we on the bright side. And all Justice Haynes is going to do is keep flying all over the field, cutting defenses up, sprinting to the end zone, getting it done because he's a full grown man and then some. Nobody can see that, man. And we going to USC this week and we going to get it done on them too. You know what I'm saying? I will get to that analysis in a bit. But if the Heisman playoff, sorry, not the Heisman playoff, bleh, why can't we talk today? If the college football playoff were today, this is where we would be. So these are the brackets. You see how it works out. A lot like your NCAA tournament, but instead you would have 12 teams. You would have 4 that have a bye, and you would have 8 that go head to head. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm not going to give you my particular view on who would be in the playoffs. I do that week to week anyway, but I'm going to give you is Fox Sports viewpoint of who will make the college football playoffs. And I don't know, man, they kind of blind to the top 25, the AP poll, because they just kind of doing their own thing. But let me see if this kind of loaded up on the screen, and it did. So what I'll do is I will change my viewpoint real quick. Hold on, that's not the one I wanted. Is that the one I wanted? Nope, it's not the one I wanted. This is the one I wanted. I'll take that down. We can expand that. Let's see. No, let's do it like this. There we go. Okay, so we're on and popping. So we're gonna go back to the top of this because it's worth chewing into. And you could chew into this too, man. Y'all can, jump in, tell us what y'all think. College football projection, who's in, who makes the position in field of 12. They have, let's get right into it. Bama at 1. Wow. So they not paying. So they think Bama is going to eventually rise. They think that dude, Ty, is going to keep spinning. And they're going to eventually take over the crown for the number 1 seed. You got Ohio State at 2. They're going to hang tough. Miami at 3. Iowa State. Iowa State. Iowa State. You see how far off they are, right? Because let me put up the top 25. Where's Iowa State in this map right here? Where is Iowa State? Iowa State is at 22 right now. So if Iowa State is at 22 in the AP poll, how are they going to all of a sudden make it to number 4? Wow. Texas at 5, Tennessee at 6, Georgia at 7, Penn State at 8. Penn State is rebounding into this. Wow. Let me look and see if I'm. Oh, you know what? My bag, y'all. My total bag. This is old. This particular one is old. So let's get back to where we were and what we were doing and what we were pursuing, and I will get you the updated version. If the college football playoff started today, let's get that cracking. All right, so we got some things happening here, and we will see what they are talking about. Let's see. All right. No, that's not the one. I want the one for October. Let's see, 2 days ago. Okay, here we go. So we have one. All right. So if the college football playoff started today, where will we be? Where will we be? Oh, that's FCS. Okay. Let's not do FCS. Let's do a regular channel. So today, let's go October 10th. And I appreciate it, family. Just bear with me. Where would we be? And we gonna see. We gonna see. We gonna see. All right, you got Ohio State at 1. You would have Oregon at 2. You would have Miami at 3, and Ole Miss at 4. Pardon, I don't have a graphic for you. So those will be your buys. You have Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Indiana, and Alabama would all host, right? That's how it would round up. So I'm sorry about the little glitchy glitch. But we're going to get back to business here on the Big House Breakdown. So, that's what would happen if the college football playoff were today. Contribute something meaningful to the channel, just don't troll. All right. Also, so we did AP poll, we did college football playoffs, we did Heisman, and now we are going to do top 7 games of, or at least the top 4 games. Well, we won't do 7. We'll just feature the top 4 that are being shown right here that probably have the most consequence on the season for week 7 of the CFB. So you got Bama versus, no, this is wrong. Sorry, you got Indiana versus Oregon. There you go. Indiana versus Oregon, Bama versus Mizzou, Oklahoma versus Texas, and Michigan versus USC. I'm taking Michigan to beat USC. They're going to roll grade them out with precision passing, dissect them. I got Michigan throwing for 250, running for 250, and they're going to give SC the business. That's what I like in that one. I like Oregon over Indiana. I think Oregon just is a little bit too much for Indiana offensively. I like it all depends if John Mateer is gonna be healthy and play. If Mateer is healthy and play, give me Oklahoma versus Texas. I am not an Arch Manning believer. Give me Bama versus Mizzou. Check those games out. Live, ride, die on those games this week. And now that we are here, we're going to get to our premier event of the day. That's right. Who would have thunk it? Who would have guessed it? We're going to break down, we're going to break down USC Trojans versus the Michigan Wolverines. Happening tomorrow. Primetime game. You watch it. You love it. We're going to get to it right here on the Big House Breakdown. All right. So I like to do it in my own little fancy, schmancy way with graphics. And we start out with game matchups. Game matchups. That's right. Active team strength by position. So let's deal with quarterbacks. You got Underwood versus Maava. Now, Maava is a strong quarterback playing for the USC Trojans. He's a dual threat. He can run, he can throw. He's got a nice ball. He rolls out. They like to roll out and cut off half the field for the young man. Michigan likes to roll out and cut off half the field for their freshman phenom. And then he has a knack for stopping on a dime, connecting with Lemon and connecting with Lane. So I want to see which quarterback will be better in this game. And I think that's going to really, really depend on the defenses. The defenses are going to tell you all you need to know about who is going to be better in this contest. And USC's defense is not playing very well, but Michigan's defense is playing very well. I think at the end of the day, I think Maava will have more passing yards. I think Bryce Underwood is going to play the more complete game. I think he'll have more rushing yards than Maava. And I also think he will be a lot more efficient than Maava because Maava is going to be running for his life. He's going to be running for his life out there. So what does that mean? I'm going to call this, because of the statistics, because of the nature of the matchup this week, and even though I think Michigan's defense is better than USC's, Maava is the more productive quarterback to date. We're going to give that edge very slightly to the USC Trojans. Very slightly. Let's go to running backs. So you got Wayman Jordan, spry, scat back, threat out of the backfield type of running back for the USC Trojans versus who should be in the running for Heisman, Michigan's very own Justice Haynes, 100 yards in every game with at least one touchdown in every game this year. So, who will get the better of the matchup? Speed wise, I will believe that they're comparable. Vision wise, I don't think Jordan sees the field like Justice Haynes does. I don't think Wayman Jordan sees the field like Justice Haynes does. And I believe that Michigan has a better old line than USC does. Give me Justice Haynes in this matchup. So we're kind of rocking the boat. We're going back and forth. We're going Maava leading and getting the edge in quarterbacks. We're going Justice Haynes leading, getting the edge for running backs. And we're going to volley one more time because now that we're talking about receivers, of course, that trio of receivers with Jacoby Lane, Hines, and Lemon is much better than what we currently have on Michigan. Although we are on the rise. Andrew Marsh, Donovan McCulley, and Marlon Klein. The Michigan passing game is on the rise. But if we're talking about active production to date, I'll have to give the benefit of the doubt to and give the benefit or the edge in the matchup to USC Trojans because of those three receivers and their tight ends are pretty good too. But I think this week they're going to be used as like escape valves, intermediate receivers, because like I said, I think Maava's going to be running for his life pretty much all game. So again, quarterbacks get the edge, goes to USC. Running backs that got the edge goes to Michigan. Wide receivers that get the edge go to USC Trojans. Now, tight ends. I'm going to call this a draw because USC tight ends can get active, and so can the Michigan tight ends. Michigan tight ends have been dealing with some injury, and USC just doesn't feature their tight ends enough to really make them a super duper threat. If our tight ends weren't as hurt, Hogan Hansen and Marlon Klein, they're supposed to be back, both back this week. I would give Michigan the edge because Max Bredesen technically is a tight end. He's our H-back, fullback, tight end type of athlete. He's our battering ram. You know, he's our Christian Okoye of sorts, our Mike Allstott of sorts. I would give the edge to Michigan, but I'm going to call it even only because of recent injuries to the Michigan tight ends. Now, O-line. Okay. Now, I'm not going to give away the ghost on game inside the game, but I don't think that this USC offensive line is all that it's cracked up to be, and I think it will show itself this week. And I do think the Michigan O-line with Giovanni Ohadi coming back at left guard is going to show market improvement, and I think you're going to see it in the way that we run the ball. I think you're going to see it in the way that we pass the rock. So, edge this week will go to the Michigan Wolverines on the O-line. So let's review offense. We have O-line edge matchup goes to Michigan. Tight end edge matchup is a draw. It's even. Neither team has the advantage. Wide receivers, the edge goes to USC wide receivers. Running back, the edge goes to Michigan running game. And in quarterback land, even though it was slim, even though I think Bryce Underwood is a more dynamic quarterback than Maava, as much credit as the talking bobbleheads will give Maava for the year. And we'll talk about him in a minute when we get into game inside the game. I believe that honor belongs to Maava because of his stats and productivity to date. All right, so that's what it was, man. So now let's get into defense, D line. Now, I keep hearing about the Jabari kid on USC D line, but outside of him, they have a very young defense. Eric Gentry is probably the only cat that has actually started for them on their squad, and they have a very young, very inexperienced defense outside of Eric Gentry. So, what happens when you play a power running team that wears you out over the course of 60 minutes? And up to date, I don't think they've played anyone just like Wisconsin. They were the number one rushing defense, and Michigan came through and put 175 on them. Rushing yards, that is. And I don't even think that they're as stout as a Wisconsin front seven. So I'm taking, and then of course, our Michigan D line, the 7 sacks versus Nebraska, the the turnovers galore all year, the sacks all year, the monster that's playing defensive end in Jayshon Barham, Demo at the other defensive end, Rajon Benny, raising hell. Give me Michigan's D line as the edge in that matchup. Now let's keep it moving to linebackers. Now Eric Gentry and Ernest Hausman, you might call it a draw, although Eric Gentry is having a statistically better season this year than Eric Gentry. But Hausman had all Big Ten honors last year. Eric Gentry is hitting everything alive this year. I'm going to call linebackers a draw. This week. Also, let's move on to DBs. So I'm going to give that to Michigan. And the only reason I'm going to give that to Michigan is because USC's safety and their nickel player, Kamari Ramsey, was hurt last week, and he's just coming back this week. And he's the only one of note within that secondary, corners and safeties, that is the matchup problem that you want to have considered on the USC side. Meanwhile, our safety position on Michigan Wolverines team is very intricate, very specialized. You got the hit stick Brandon Hillman. He bangs everything moving. He puts the boom on everything with cleats on. Then you got the closer, Rod Moore, who just came back last week playing major minutes after an ACL tear, a knee tear, and he got a pick to close out the game last week. So I know he feels good. I know he feels confident. He's a very wise, older playing safety. And we also have TJ Metcalf at that hybrid nickel position. I think our safety room is just a little more dynamic. And then we also have Jaden Mangum, who is very good in coverage. I think our safety room gives us the edge in a DB matchup. Whereas Kamari Ramsey is probably the only DB of note. Bishop Fitzgerald might be a liability in coverage and in tackling. So I can't really hang a hat on what he'll get out there and do. Give me the Michigan secondary as an edge because of how dynamic our safety room is. And I think they'll have a lot to say in how this week's game plays out with Maava throwing that ball all over the yard. Okay. So, blue chip ratio says, let's check. Let's go to AI real quick. Blue chip ratio of Michigan Wolverines versus USC Trojans. Now, USC has portaled its behind off. They've NIL'd their behind off. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that if USC is just a slight bit better with blue chippers than Michigan, just slightly. USC has a higher blue chip percentage of recruits than Michigan. Just by a tenth of a point, not even that bad. So it's 57.9% to 57.5%. So this is really a pick'em game when you even talking about blue chip ratio, because that usually tells you the story. So now the story will be cohesion on offense, cohesion on defense, and game plan. I like that. All right, let's move on to eye in the sky, because the eye in the sky don't lie. That's the reason for this particular segment. What I like to call the eye in the sky is the character, the pulse, and the momentum of the teams. That's right. Not just your play, but the character, the pulse, and the momentum. Well, USC is just coming off of a bye, and they had a lot of questions about this team. They're questioning Lincoln Riley. How could they let Illinois, beat them like that? They didn't whoop on them, but for an Illinois brand of football versus a USC brand of football, boy, the donors and the NIL trustees, they mad as shit over what Lincoln Riley let Illinois do to uh, the USC Trojans. And they cite poor execution, major penalties. They cite, poor performance, poor tackling, and the fact that Lincoln Riley can't and doesn't seem to win the big one. So the character of the USC team at present, after a bye week, after you get the ice up, son, after you get the ice up, after you get to lay in the tub, lay up under your girl, get some training table, eat right, get right, watch some football, clear the cobwebs, and get itchy about playing football one more again and correct the mistakes that you made, you usually think you're going to fly out of their blockbusters and really give it to the team that you're getting ready to play. But there's a lot of USC media that are not believers. They are not believers that USC is going to get this done. Some people are. The talking bobbleheads are. We'll talk about that in our crap analysis segment. But a lot of the local media and a lot of the print media is not really feeling the USC Trojans right now. So the character of the team is a little shaky because their head coach is shaky. The pulse of the team, they should be chomping at the bit to get back to football, but media and all of these other entities are pointing out, if they're being honest, they're pointing out a lot of errors on USC's side. But because they love the fast car offense of USC, they're giving them the BOD and saying, hey, they're going to beat Michigan just because they're talented on offense. So that's your character. That's your post. Now, momentum. They are in the negative in momentum. Why? Because they just got out of their bye week and they lost right before their bye week. And so this is a time, and they have a lot of walking wounded. Kamari Ramsey. I mean, they got walking wounded on the offensive line. We'll get to that a little bit later in Game Inside the Game. They have a lot of injuries. Ja'Cory Lane, I believe, was injured as well. Let me look at my little chart I made to update you guys. Jacoby Lane, sorry, not Ja'Cory Lane. Jacoby Lane was babying an injury in that last game. Now, that's not to say Lemon wasn't going to pop off, because he certainly did, but Lane was out there kind of doing the spandex Olympics. He wasn't very effective, but Lemon was. So I guess Lemon got to take advantage of that spot. I don't like their momentum right now. I don't think this team has a lot of mo. I just don't. Even though they're 4-1, I don't think they have a lot of momentum coming into this week. And I don't think that it'll take a lot to reduce the mo that they particularly have, get them not believing in themselves. All they need is a bad half to make that happen. And you're going to hear a lot of slow singing and flower bringing on the sideline if Michigan comes in there and puts a belt to ass in Southern California. So now Michigan, character, pulse, and momentum. Michigan is coming in with a 4-1 record. They lost to Oklahoma. They won against Nebraska. Central Michigan and then beat Wisconsin, they're feeling really good. They think they found some solves and some remedies for their passing game, and their D line I know is chomping at the bit in this sort of a primetime matchup to get that NFL tape nice and in fuego against a really blue blood brand school like USC. So the cat, and then of course Sharon Moore is back for the second week in a row. They've just come off of a bye, the week, not this week, but the week before, and they're feeling good about what's going on with that program. They like Justice Haynes. They like their freshman phenom who is being very efficient with the passing and being very dynamic with the running when he gets an opportunity to. We got backups in our running back room. Our receiver room is looking better. We're getting some tight ends back. So I think the character of this team is really, and the character and the core of the Michigan Wolverines is stock up. Now, pulse. Okay. So you might have that wide receiver room might be a little cantankerous right now because I hear that Jamar Browder might get some spins this week at wide receiver. Channing Goodwin might be made to have a seat. Samaj Morgan's snaps might be limited because Andrew Marsh is getting more reps as a number two within the XYZ receiver exchange. So we'll see if they can be, you know, as if it's about the team this week, if they could put their differences aside about playing time and or improve their performance on the field, stop dropping balls that are hitting you in the hands, and really give it to USC Trojans. Now, USC Trojans probably is going to play a lot of cover one based on what's been going on and the respect level that they have for our wide receiver unit. And that will serve both our 6'5" wide receivers, Browder and McCulley, positively. And that will be a cheat code for just throwing over the top and letting the big man climb the ladder and go get those 50-50 jump balls. We need that. We need those 50-50 jump balls leading to chunk yards. We need that. So we're probably going to see some Jamal Browder this week. We're getting Hogan Hansen and Marlon Klein to be more active this week. So that's 4 receivers, including McCulley, that will be looking up if our receiver room can be about the team, and not spread cancer around. I think we'll have a productive day at the wide receiver position. And I don't think I think all the other units are really looking up at this point. Their cohesiveness is great. I love what the O line is doing, even though Sprague had to clean some things up from last week. He's the only one that, and he's a determined young man. So, he's got the size. He's learning as a redshirt freshman how to play that right tackle position. So I'm sure he'll have a bounce back this week with a week of practice, with a week of to lick your boo boos. And his mistakes didn't lead to a Michigan loss. So all is well there. So Michigan has the pulse for Michigan is great. Michigan has got plenty of momentum into this matchup with the 4-1 record. I like the way they match up versus the USC Trojans, skill wise. When Michigan is on defense and USC is on offense. Now, the game inside the game. No crap analysis, just getting after this real football information. Again, this particular segment is made and brought to you by all of the crap analysis that goes on in college football. That's right, you heard it. CBS Sports, NBC Sports, ESPN, Fox, Joel Klatt, Josh Pate, J.D. Pickell, all these people who have picked Nebraska and then took the L, had to wear the loser L on your forehead. And then you had to do a show, talking about how great Michigan is after Michigan beat the people that you said Michigan was going to lose to, the teams rather, that Michigan was going to lose to. Didn't happen. And we're going to give you the game inside the game. Now, what does this mean? This means no crap analysis. We're just getting after this real football information. And here we go. All right. Lincoln Riley, man, he has James Franklin Penn State disease. He can't win the big one. That's his albatross. That's the monkey around his neck. And this game is so, like, I guess, pivotal. It's a battle of blue bloods. And he has to prove himself. He's on the chopping block, I think. I think he's on the chopping block. As offensive minded as he is, as celebrity oriented of a coach as he is, his team has a lot of poor clock management. And that's on the head coach, not just the OC. OC gives the yeses and the nos to the players as they come through, and the game situation moments as they come through, and they've had poor clock management. And that's not just me. This is local USC media pundits talking about this. Poor personnel decisions, like what he's doing with Ja'Cory Lane. USC spends a ton on NIL, but doesn't develop well. So we'll see, if all of these, high-priced transfers and a lot of these high-priced recruits that they spend a lot of money on, we'll see if they pay dividends. A lot of USC people don't seem to believe. They're a highly penalized team. So we were complaining about Michigan during the Nebraska game getting a crap ton of unnecessary penalties. Their defense plays very aggressively, but they're often penalized for that. Like hand to the face mask, horse collar, play fast, get out of position, that sort of, And, a lot of the USC pundits tend to think that USC defense and offense make a lot of the same in-game errors and mistakes game to game. So, that's the game inside of the game as far as head coach for USC is concerned. For Michigan, the game inside of the game is going to be, will Sharon Moore let Bryce Underwood really get busy? And will the receivers for Michigan step up as Bryce Underwood slings that rock all over the field? Will he get the support that he needs to do his thing? He'll get it from his backs. He'll get it from the tight ends. But will the wide receivers, Andrew Marsh, McCulley, and now Browder, who's rumored to get a spin on the field, will they support Underwood and give themselves a boost by doing their thing versus USC? And will Sharon Moore overcook his grits by playing it too safe versus USC? And that will kind of be based on the start that Michigan has to this game. You know what I mean? Now, tendencies. Game inside the game tendencies. What I saw by watching all 22 of these two teams play, Michigan defense, Michigan offense versus USC defense. Michigan is really, really successful when they spread teams out. They run the ball at a high pace. I believe they're over 7 yards a clip running the ball when they spread teams out, when they go three on one, 2 on 2, or open. They're very, very successful that way. So and USC is weak that way on defense. When you spread USC's defense out and Eric Gentry doesn't have an opportunity just to focus on what they're doing in the run game because you're not 12 personnel, you're more like 11 personnel, then you're much more effective versus a team like Michigan. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that Michigan uh, is built with the Ohio State recruiting effect. What do I mean by that? Well, everyone wants to talk about how great the USC offense is with Lemon, Lane, and the other receiver, and Mayava and Jordan. So they have, the greatest show in Southern California on offense. But they got to remember, and most people got to remember that Michigan from Harbaugh and Sharon Moore is a Harbaugh disciple. So they built that team recruiting wise to beat a wide open spread, high octane receiver, centric team like Ohio State. They're built for that. They're built on a D line to handle them that way, and they're built in the secondary to handle them that way. And our linebackers are very, very speedy. Barham, Houseman, Cole Sullivan. We're built to play teams like this. Why? Because Harbaugh got tired of losing to Ohio State, and Sharon Moore was his offensive coordinator and his O-line coach, and they all got tired of losing to a wide receiver centric school like Ohio State. And this is, you're not going to, the crap analysis of it all by all the media heads, the national media heads, talking cabbage heads, they won't tell you this. But that's the truth. Michigan is built to beat teams that have heavy wide receiver centric offenses. So I think this favors them well. I love the matchup of USC's wide receivers and Michigan's DBs. For every wide receiver they put out there, we have a DB that can rock out with them. So you're going to give me a Ja'Cory Lane, I'll give you a Jair Hill, who has the best incompletion percentage. And according to PFF, he has the best incompletion percentage of DBs currently playing. That's wow, right? Wow, I didn't even know that. And you wouldn't think it based on some of the erratic play that he provides, but he's a solid DB. I love our safety room. So if TJ, what's his name? Our nickel. Where am I? Metcalf. I had a brain fart for a second. I like what TJ Metcalf offers from a hybrid nickel safety type of player. And, Wink Martindale likes our safeties to be nickel oriented or half field oriented safeties. So I could put you in and you could be a single high safety, a two high safety, or you could drop down, play some nickel, and jump into a three look or a quarter look if I need it, versus a team that likes to go deep like USC. So I love our safeties. You know what I mean? So if you give me a lemon, I'm giving you TJ Metcalf. You give me I'm looking at USC offense again. You give me Lemon, and then you Lane Lemon, and you give me Hines. I'm giving you Rod Moore. So we all have these uncanny performers who perform really, really well in clutch situations on both sides. So that's the crap analysis that a lot of media pundits are going to give you when they just pick USC right off rip. A team not even ranked. And why aren't they ranked? Because their schedule's poor. So, I love Michigan's DB matchup against this team. And I love our D line versus their O line, where the center was dealing with an injury. So we don't know how good he is at this point in the season. You have what's the center? What's the left guard? Elijah Page for USC. He was dealing with an injury. He was practicing, but he was dealing with an injury. So we'll see how effective he's going to be versus Jayshon Barham that was eating his lunch last year. Derek Moore that was eating his fruit cup last year. Pause. He was eating his lunch last year. Pause. Those two was getting busy versus the USC offensive line. And why the crap analysis of it all is no one's talking about how Michigan as a defense holds most teams that are efficient running the football. You ain't get more than 60, 70 yards a game. You better pass to beat us because you ain't getting more than 60, 70 yards a game rushing the football. That's just what it is. Ernest Hausman trying to go to the pros. You know what I'm saying? Cole Sullivan trying to, cement that starting role. And Jayshon Barham, he trying to improve his draft stock to be a day one player. You know what I'm saying? So, with all of that in tow, look out for weaknesses offensively coming from the offensive line at the center position, the right tackle position. It's crap analysis that no one's talking about that. You got weaknesses at the quarterback position. Now, as much as I like Maava, he likes to try to fit that thing in there. And the Michigan DBs come up with they average at least 1.5 turnovers a game. So if he's going to try to fit that thing in a tight window, and Jacory Lane, am I saying his name right again? Jacoby Lane is not 100%, and Lemon is going to go over the middle and try to, and then Rob Moore steps right in front of that thing like he did against Wisconsin, or Metcalf picks it off like he did versus Oklahoma, or Brandon Hill picks it off like he did versus Central Michigan. I like our odds. We got Zeke Berry back playing that corner. Had a really good game last week. He's looking to improve on that. I like the way our young dogs, Elijah Dotson and Jaden Sanders, is locking them up. Who can give our older vets a blow every once in a while. A relief off the bench, play some meaningful snaps, join our dime defense if we need to do our 4-2-5 hybrid piece. I'm telling you, man, I like the way our defense matches up, but the crap analysis is that these national media dudes won't admit this. They'll admit it when Michigan wins, but they won't admit it now. Why? The money is in promoting the matchup. The money is not in promoting the truth about the matchup. But we're going to continue because there's more to get into. All right. So we talked about spreading them out. We talked about wide receiver centric and how Michigan is recruited and built to play against wide receiver centric teams. To win this game, I believe Michigan has to throw some curveballs, meaning we got to put some trick plays in there because we're not doing a very good job of flipping the field on special teams this year. And I don't think that's going to improve this week. I think we're going to be very steady Eddie with punt return and kick return. I don't think we're going to have, unless we want to start, what's the safety that plays for Michigan, the young boy, Jordan Young. Unless you're gonna start that young man with that giddy up, that engine, that 4.443 speed, that kick returner and punt returner, I don't know if we're gonna flip the field that way. But a way that we can be, our run offense and our methodical passing offense can be a little more effective and hold Eric Gentry just a bit is come out in the first quarter and run some sort of gadget play that keeps them on their heels. And a lot of motion from our tight ends, motion from the fullback, motion from wide receivers like Samaj Morgan and Andrew Marsh. Motion, motion, motion. So those linebackers are going to have to worry about being outflanked in motion. And while they're worrying about lining up one more again, we'll be able to call into preferable run We'll be able to call into preferable RPOs, throw into vacant areas, so on and so forth. I like our odds as far as that's concerned. So that's the other, because Gentry likes to guess the play. If you watch the All 22 and you watch him versus some of their tougher competition, he likes to move the defense, especially the back safety, in ways that will, conversely, he likes to diagnose the play and alert his team of, any potential, where the ball's going to. And I don't think that that's a bad thing inherently, but I do think that it's I do think that it's worth noting that he could be tricked out of position with motion, with counter, with power, and with misdirection. So I think Michigan needs to do a lot of that within the scope of the game to actually, you know, have him not believing what his eyes are seeing. So that's another like insight in the game inside of the game. USC's defense gives up major yards. Over 175 yards rushing when they were in nickel, right? When they get in nickel formation, according to what I studied, and I also heard some other analysis on this as well. They are really, really bad against the run in nickel. So this is why you want to spread them out and run at the nickel back because Harris at nickel for, let me make sure I have make sure I'm spelling his name right. Sorry, not Harris. Kamari Ramsey. Kamari Ramsey at nickel, right? If he's coming off an injury or he's nursing an injury and we're running at that position on the field or taking advantage of that matchup, climbing to the second level, and some of our guards can get a hat on a hat, you're gonna see Justice Haynes busting loose. You're gonna see Justice Haynes on another 75-yard blaze up the field, scoring and widening his Heisman chances. You know what I mean? Also, USC hasn't faced a defense as complex as Michigan's with the Wink Martindale scheme. The way that he subverts his safeties from a nickel look into a deep third look, the way they used to do it with Mikey Sanders still. And I believe this would be a great game now that Rod Moore is back, and you can trust your deep half safety or your single high safety. Now you might want to play that robber sort of a safety at nickel because now you have a safety that you could depend on being on the back end. And when Maava sees this, he thinks he has cover two, and then we drop into a cover three look with a robber underneath. Man, that's gonna give him fits. On top of not having a whole lot of time because you got a lot of leaky, a lot of weak sisters on that offensive line, and our pass rush is coming. Our pass rush is coming. You know what I mean? So we'll see if USC has the discipline they need to beat Michigan. We'll see if USC's offense can stop making a lot of turnovers. Wayman Jordan putting the ball on the floor, Maava throwing into double and triple coverage. We'll see if they have the discipline to, while they play aggressive, they miss a whole gang of tackles, give up over 5 yards, had a lack of pass rush versus Illinois. The secondary was a hot mess. Now, this isn't me. This is me looking at the film and also listening to a lot of USC media. Even though Eric Gentry is a beast. We'll see if the offensive Swiss cheese, weak sisters are going to get it going and get together. Michigan D line is going to feast on the O line shuffling, because what happens is when Elijah Page was hurt, they had to kind of do they had to kind of do dominoes in replacement of Elijah Page. So guards had to go to tackles, other tackles had to go to the other guards, and then they had to play, inexperienced people at the left tackle. All types of stuff happening. You know what I mean? We'll see if Jakeem Stewart, a freshman on the D line, is going to be all that he's cracked up to be, even though he's a big boy. We'll see if Alex Graham, their vaulted freshman, is at DB, is going to play or not play. I talked to you about Kamari Ramsey at length already. And I wanted to talk to you in the game, inside the game, about this, because there's a lot being made about this. About Michigan's defense giving up touchdowns in their first drives of the game. Now, y'all got to remember that Wink Martindale is a NFL savant coach. He's the architect of the defense that was on the Ravens, that made the Ravens so successful, that made 3 and 4 different types of coordinators very successful. Even Lynn is, the defensive coordinator for USC, is copying or utilizing the same style of Ravens type of defense on USC. I just don't think they have the people to run it. I don't think they got the athletes to run the defense the way that Michigan does. But what I think Wink Martindale ultimately does is he utilizes the first drive of the game in base formation as think about it like a boxer, and how a boxer may jab you to death, pepper you to death in the first round, just to see where you are. Can you absorb the blows? What do your blows feel like? How's your footing? Do you roll? Do you roll your shoulder versus jab cross? Versus hooks. What do you like as a boxer? So I think some of the reasons why Michigan this year has gotten a lot of, susceptible to long drives in the first drive of the game this season in a lot of games is because Wink Martindale is scouting what those teams do. Because most teams, they basically practice their first 15 plays. They drill them home. Drill, baby, drill, baby, drill. They drill those first 15, first 12, first 15 plays home. And if they could give it up in one drive, if they give up the ghost, if they give up at least 10 of the first 15 in the first drive of the game, now Wink Martindale can counter. Now, see, the reason why you're not going to get this type of analysis on any other show is because they're more interested in the crap analysis that they put out there about the sexiness, the marquee matchups, the marquee blue blood teams that are actually playing, not how each team will fare versus the other team. And the game inside the game with Wink's defense is that I believe Wink gives up the first drive of the game to scout what the other team is doing. And once he believes he's got a handle on what they prefer and what they don't prefer, then he just start cutting you off at the knees. He'll cut you off at the knees on this play, cut you off at the knees on that play, blitz, control blitz you this, influence blitz you that, all those types of, different sorts of control blitzes and creative schemes within the frame of it all to make his defense super duper effective. And if you've watched over the course of the year, they played that way versus Oklahoma. After Oklahoma scored their first 2 touchdowns, they had to be very methodical to score after that. Then you'll go ahead to Nebraska and Central Michigan, and then you had Wisconsin. After those first drives, they barely got anything going on offense. They had to settle for field goals. So this is the game inside the game as far as Wink and giving up first drives on defense. So the great thing about this is we are at the point where it's time for us game inside the game to give a prediction. I'm going with my Michigan Wolverines over the USC Trojans. I don't think it will be that big of a contest. I think give me Michigan 27, USC 17. 27-17. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. This has been the Big House Breakdown for the preview of the Michigan USC Trojans game, the big primetime matchup that's going to happen this weekend. You make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you liked about the show. Tell us what you hated about the show. Just get active. It helps the algorithm. It helps us to grow. If you like the show, if you think it's corny, if you think it's good, if you think my analysis is good, let me know. Um, we'll be on Sunday giving our told you so review of the game on Saturday. It'll either be Sunday or it'll be Monday. Actually, let's just go for Monday. We'll be back on Monday, 12 p.m. with the I told you so uh game review of USC Michigan. Again, Michigan will win 27-17 against the USC Trojans. And we will see you on Monday. And as always, I'm going to say peace and go blue.